Welcome to episode 2 of the Cosmic Kitchen Sink, where we talk about whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah. So
What should
what's
we
going
do tonight?
what's going on in the cosmos?
Not too sure. I guess the one thing I have on my mind right now is XRP,
Yeah.
XLM, crypto. Looks like everything's at the top of its spike and starting to come on down now. If you haven't sold yet, it might be time to.
Yeah. I don't know if it's time to sell. I just personally from the information that I gathered today is we might take a little drop down back down, just like you talked about yesterday, to $2, 90, and then go up from there. And that's just what they're trying to shuffle people out of the market. So my advice is just hold on. We're in a bull run.
Well, I mean, yeah, bull run or not, but I mean,
And we're gonna be in this bull run's gonna continue, and so we're gonna see a super cycle.
I think it's going to drop down to more like $1.50 or so before it goes recontinues. But it's got to resettle to something. I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't know if we're gonna go that low, but you know,
We'll see, I suppose.
yeah, we gotta be careful what we wish for.
I didn't sell all of it.
No, that's good.
I sold a third of it when it was at 260, and then it came down to 230, and I was like, "Yep, that's confirmation. It's going to resettle now." So I sold another third of it,
Yeah.
and I'm
Did you
keeping
say?
the other just in case it does suddenly spike
Yeah.
again.
What'd you say? 360.
260.
Oh, I was like, when did it hit 360? That's incoming.
Yeah.
Ethereum's looking good. Bitcoin's looking good. We touched 100K yesterday finally. Um, Went over 100K, 103, then dropped back down to 90K, which didn't even register on the thing. It was just a real short, quick
Mm.
drop down. But it looks like the market's picking up and, pretty good. So um,
When was the last halving of Bitcoin? Was that a year ago now?
I honestly, I don't remember myself.
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't gone up to, well, it was at like what, 75K when they did the last halving? Something like that, 60,
Yeah.
70.
Yeah, something like that. I have to go back and
Yeah,
look
so I
at
guess
the data.
it's
But the market's looking pretty good, you know.
the crypto market.
And
Yep.
then as prices start to go up and rise, people are going to FOMO in.
Well,
So
and that's kind of the problem though, is by the time it's FOMO, it's too late.
yeah,
You know? Like that's what I was just telling my mother, and she was getting all fear of missing out, and I'm like, don't no, just slow down. Don't get in on the hype, right? Emotions are what destroy investors, right?
Mhm.
And I explained to her like it's at the top of its peak right now. If it's not there now, it's going to be there shortly. At the rate at which it's climbing and the amount of time it's taking to climb, um, it can't really get much higher. And even if it does, it still has to resettle back down to $1.50. So I would just wait till it comes back down to $1.50 and then buy in.
Yeah,
Don't get caught up in the hype. That's how you lose all your money.
yep. So what you is that your dinner for this evening?
Yep, decided to have a lazy dinner this evening.
Yeah,
Grain-free pizza into the oven.
yeah. Um, so it looks like a lot of things are moving along with the three new leaders, that what we might want to call them, that are coming in.
Yeah.
And even AI is moving along. You see what I was watching, um, as I always follow her, and I have been for quite a while. She's so inspirational and a wealth of knowledge and stuff. But Dr. Courtney Sue Hunt was just talking about like AI and how they're charging for like Chat GBT now. It's like charging like $200 or something like that.
So they're not yet. I saw a similar video from another person I follow on TikTok, and apparently, somebody was perusing through the code. Like it's the code is all public information, so anybody can access it. But ChatGPT hasn't actually announced anything yet. But hidden within their code is a new product that they're going to launch,
Hmm.
uh, which is a pro version. Like right now, you have ChatGPT free version, you have ChatGPT plus version, which is $20 per month. And pretty soon, I guess they're going to launch ChatGPT Pro version for $200 a month.
Hmm.
But apparently, they're still in, talks about, how, when, and how that's going to work, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like that might actually finally be a really good version for, actual professional business use.
Hmm. Yeah. She was mentioning all the things are moving along quicker than what they were, than what she intended. So sorry about that. I just had to call when I that I had to take.
So yeah, we'll see how that works when it comes out. I may even give it a test run,
Yeah.
see if it helps me with any of my businesses.
Hmm. Um, yeah, interesting times that we're living.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think 2025 is going to be a weird year.
It'll be an interesting one. A lot of things are ending 2025.
Hmm.
Hopefully, among them are income taxes, the IRS.
Yeah, I was actually reading on that. It's really interesting. I was reading on I was of course we both follow Brandon
Yep,
Joe and one stupid whatever. Um
you could
but
say this
yeah,
ain't a kid's show.
yeah, one stupid fuck on Instagram. But obviously his YouTube channel he was really talking about things about how he's going to be like revising just a bunch of different stuff that he's been finding, and things are changing about with the citizen and the national and all this other stuff. And I was just like, okay. So
Yep, we're always learning. That's one of the things
mhm.
I like about him is he doesn't like he's pretty egotistical in his own right, but he's also very humble.
Oh,
Like
very.
his egotism is just his personality though. Like he just enjoys coming across as a character, but he's
Hmm.
very humble, and always making sure that everybody understands, like, yeah, I don't actually know everything.
Right.
I'm right along with you. Uh, and that's really that's kind of a breath of fresh air when it comes to researching the law because everyone else is just a fucking douchebag. Like I've spent 20 years learning this stuff. I know what I'm talking about. You don't know anything. You need to listen to me. Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, that's the kind of exactly how you were playing that out.
There's just too many people that are like,
um yeah, definitely. And it gives you a real bad negative vibe about things, about
yeah,
what's what side are they on? What side are who's who on? You know what I mean? And are we getting like factual information, and so that we can all move forward? Um,
Like, I mean,
So
even if you've actually read every statute of every law in America at least once, still doesn't guarantee that you actually completely understand it.
right, exactly, Cam.
Even if you have an eidetic memory, whatever.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's intentionally written to be as confusing as it fucking possibly can.
Oh yeah, for sure, Cameron. And that he was like really touching base on some things that I was watching with him today about how they they'll form a sentence with even with the laws within it, and then in that same sentences and they're giving information, they'll put like um they'll just put something in a capital letter, you know?
Well, that's the one thing you can always trust when
And it
studying. Anytime you see a capital letter or a lowercase letter, like for state, right? If they put a capital S on state, you know it means a corporation state. If they
right,
put S on state, you know it means the original states of the Union.
right. Yeah, that's what he was talking about. And of course, he uses Cornell Law University, get a lot of stuff from there.
Yep, that's my
Um,
go-to site for studying a lot.
yeah. But he had a new female guest on today. I can't remember her name. Um,
Yeah, I saw the email. The gorgeous, whatever, whatever.
oh, yes, yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I think that's exactly what it is. It's just like it just keeps people more confused about what's what. You know, um, yeah,
Brandon, I don't necessarily agree with the path that he's taking being the path of litigation. I agree with his outlook on why he's taking that path, and I'm glad that he's going down that path. I'd like to see how it turns out for him.
mm-hmm,
But in my experience, well, I can't say my personal experience, but in my research, the only people that have ever gone to prison were those that went to war with the state, right? Usually in the form of litigation, right? Now, Brandon's approach to litigation is markedly different from anything I've ever seen before, though, because
mm-hmm,
approach is not, you have to listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. This is the law. This is what it states, blah, blah, blah. His approach is, this is my understanding of the law. This is what I believe it means. And we need to figure out if this is what it really means. And if this is what it really means, then isn't that what you're supposed to be doing since you're supposed to be following the law?
right.
And that's a very different approach. It's a much more peaceful approach. So I'd like to see how his plan works out. Nonetheless, my own personal strategy is not the strategy of litigation. I just go straight back to the Declaration of Independence. And my strategy is okay, let's just create our own nation, create our own government, create our own judicial system, create our own everything, and act as diplomats in every other nation. So we have diplomatic immunity because they respect that shit. And we'll just manage our own affairs in our own nation by our own rules. That's my strategy.
And
Because to me,
that
the
sounds
most
pretty simple instead of trying to jump through all these other hoops of like
right.
trying to
Forget
not to fight the corporation, but
to just live on our own terms
yeah,
without
base,
bothering
yeah,
them. You can live on your own terms in your nation. We'll live on our own terms in our nation. Forget the
right,
fact that we live in the same geographical area within the same borders. That
right.
doesn't, right? I live in my nation, you live in your nation. Then we are foreign to each other despite the fact that we live in the same geographical location.
Mm-hmm.
That's my approach,
Mm-hmm.
which is the same as being a national, which is the original jurisdiction of the US, and calling yourself foreign to the United States, which is a corporation now, right?
Right.
Strategy, but more powerful because, how many times have people been called frivolous for being, taking the national path, right?
Right.
But you create your own nation, they can't really call that frivolous. It's like, oh, well, yeah, your nation is literally not even spelled the same. Forget the capital letters, right?
Yeah.
It's completely and totally different. So I guess we have to recognize it as its own separate nation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the law, like, no country has to recognize a nation as being a nation. Brandon talks about this, like what, like it says right in the law that it doesn't need to be recognized by the United States to be a nation. Nobody gives approval to the creation of a new nation, right? New nations are sovereign in their own right because they give themselves their own approval.
Mm-hmm. What was he
So that
mentioning today? I'm sorry,
uh,
go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just kind of thinking back what else he was talking about money today, and he was saying that everything else besides gold and silver is currency. That's what he was saying. That, that like gold and silver is money.
Technically, anything that's real, tangible property is money.
I mean, we used to trade with seashells, barter swap with seashells. That was used to be a form of money with seashells.
Well, salt used to be a form of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
You know,
anything, it's like,
anything that's a real, tangible property with real, tangible value is technically money.
yeah.
Like
Or
bartering is still technically legal.
yeah, well, exchange and bartering, because we can exchange our services. For one thing, I could come over and wax your car, and you could like, you know, uh, give me some apples and oranges. So I don't know.
It's property.
That's why I just think it's it's a good idea to hold on to different forms of currency.
Right.
Um,
Money is property, whereas currency is an idea.
yeah.
It's the difference.
So I mean, we're gonna have this different societies that are gonna be different using different forms of currency, money.
Well, that's the idea. Which one of the things I want to do is my society is create our own. I call it omni-centralized. Thanks to my friend Brett Warshawski for giving me that idea. So it's better than decentralized. It's omni-centralized, right?
It's what?
Omni-centralized.
Omni-centralized.
So omni means like every direction.
Mm-hmm.
But even in omni-centralization, there is a center, but there's a center and it's decentralized at the same time. So it's both centralized and decentralized simultaneously. That's what makes it omni-centralized, right? So it's not centralized, it's not decentralized, it's omni-centralized, which means it's both, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's basically how everything in the society that we're creating is working. And the banking system will be the same, right? So eventually we're going to create our own omni-central banking system, which has its own currency that's fluidly exchangeable with all other currencies. But our currency is going to work markedly different from everybody else's, right? And I haven't quite decided on what approach I'm going to take yet. My initial approach, this will be an interesting discussion. So my initial approach was, well, first of all, let me state the goal of our banking system, right? The goal of our banking system is to give everybody within our society, every member, ambassador, whatever you want to call them, in our society, um, the ability to be, not just feel, but actually be of equal value to all other people, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Regardless of their position, regardless of their job, regardless of their role, regardless of their level in the administrative system, right? Regardless of any of that, everybody will have the ability to be of equal value to all other people. Now, how do you accomplish that goal, right? So basically, what that means is this. So first, we have to look at it from this perspective, right? So in any business, right, and corporations hate this idea, right? They don't even talk about it. But the idea is this, right? If a position within that business is absolutely necessary for that business to remain in business, then that position is of equal value to all other positions which have the same requirement, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
The business cannot remain in business without it, right? All of those positions are of equal value. Corporations hate that idea. Employees, especially the lowest level employees, they innately and instinctively understand this, even if they don't actually put it into words because they've never really thought about it. But they innately and instinctually understand this. So when they hear it, they're like, you're right, right? But the higher up in the company you go, the less likely you are to find people that agree with that statement, right? Because they worked so hard to get to that position and start earning that much money, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But it doesn't change the fact that the business can't operate without the lowest level positions any more than it can't operate without the highest level positions. And
Right.
innately and automatically makes them of equal value,
Hmm.
right? So, with that in mind, right, that's the philosophy that I take on, right? So, it doesn't matter how low or high you are in the hierarchy, so to speak, all positions are of equal value if they're absolutely necessary to the survival of the business, right? So, if that's true, then we should create an economy in which that becomes the reality, right? And so that's where I call it holobank, HOLO bank, hollow for holographic. And so that's where this idea comes into play in order to create a scenario in which all people are literally able to be of equal value, right? And so my original idea was this: we'll make it so that nobody actually gets paid, right? An hourly wage or a salary or whatever for the job that they do, right?
Yeah.
Instead of getting paid for the job that you do on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis, whatever, right? Instead of all that, right? Get rid of that, replace it with a different idea. And this idea is if you work in any company or you own any company or providing a service to society in some way, shape, or form, whether it be an evolve, and this gets rid of having to have a volunteer position versus a paid position at work, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Gets rid of all of that ideology also, right? Because anything that you do, so long as it's providing a service to society, right? If so long as you're doing that, you basically are have the privilege of being able to create money on demand, right? And basically the way that would work was, okay, you have a job, so you get this like basically a debit card like thing, right? And every time you swipe that, insert it, tap it, whatever the case may be, right? Instead of that taking money from your account, which money was previously deposited into, and transferring that to another account, instead of all of that, right? You swipe that card or whatever, and it creates money. The banking system creates money on demand for that transaction and transfers it to the recipient, right?
Hmm.
So that was my original idea. You don't have to get paid because you have infinite access to spending power. That's what currency is. It's not money, it's spending power, right? It's a debt, technically. But ours would be a credit, right? Credit being the opposite of a debt, right? Credit being money that's created but not owed back. A debt being money that's created but owed back, right? That's the market difference between a credit and a debt.
Right.
So ours would be a credit based monetary system as opposed to a debt based monetary system. Every time we create money, it's a credit because you do not owe that money back, let alone at interest, right? So that was the original idea. You just create money on demand. You don't have to worry about how much you make. You want to buy a fucking $100 million yacht? Nobody gives a shit. Just go and fucking swipe your card, and we'll create $100 million for you, right?
Yeah.
You want a $3 million mansion? Nobody gives a shit. Just go swipe your card, and we'll create the $3 million for you. You need $100 worth of groceries? Go swipe your card. We'll give you the $100 for your groceries. Like that's just how it works. Because you serve society, you have the right to have society serve you in return, right? And there's no limitation upon this. The only limitation is there's a minimum amount of service that you have to give.
Mm-hmm.
Return for an unlimited amount of service in exchange, right? That was my original idea, right? Now, unfortunately, the first time that I started working with software developers, or a software developer, I should say, in order to work on this idea, just like everybody before him, he was not able to wrap his mind around how you could create a cryptocurrency or a system in which money's just for free, created on demand as a credit with no debt attached to it. Like, how do you make money doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the problem. It's like, I don't need to make money doing that. Nobody needs to make money doing that. That's the whole fucking point, right? But the difficulty is getting people to think in this completely new way of being, right? And they're so heavily indoctrinated into profits and exchanges and paying for things and so on and so forth that it's really difficult to get them to shift their mindset into this new modality of banking, right? So I have yet to even find a software developer that can help me create this because even they can't wrap their mind enough around it to actually create the fucking system for me, right?
Right.
So eventually I'm probably going to have to learn how to code myself and create all this shit myself. We'll get to that point. In any case, in working with that developer, I came up with another idea on how to do this, which would still create the same effect, but with more limitation. And I wanted to be completely limited. I was like, all right, if people can't get their mind into unlimited fucking abundance,
Mm-hmm.
which I have no problem being there, but apparently everybody else in the world has this like limited mindset, right? So if I need to create a transitionary system that enables people to transition from the mindset of limitation to the mindset of infinite abundance, um, let's try this idea. And so I came up with this idea. Um, Instead of creating money on demand, we create a system in which the amount of hours that people work
Mm-hmm.
generates currency, right? Regardless of what they're doing, how much they're doing, right? It always generates the exact same amount of currency per hour, right? And that amount is a pretty large number, right? It's basically 1 ounce of gold per hour
Yeah.
is right in value, right? But not just 1 ounce of gold, the all-time high of 1 ounce of gold, right? So it doesn't fluctuate with the market. It just remains at whatever the all-time high of gold ever was. So it can increase, but it can never decrease in value, right? Um, so let's just say, what is gold usually? Like what, 3,500 an ounce? I think last time I checked.
Is that what it's up to now? I thought it was up to like 28.
All right, well let's just average it out at
Uh,
$3,000.
yeah. Yeah.
So let's say gold is now $3,000 an ounce. So every time somebody works, 1 hour of service in our society, that generates $3,000 that gets created in our banking system. And at first, that accumulates in a central account, right? For everybody in the banking system.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works is half of that value, everybody that works, right? Whether it be for 4 hours or 20 hours or 40 hours or 100 hours a week, right? Um, you will make
Yeah.
money. You will make money into your personal account equivalent to the amount of hours that you work per week, but at half of the value of 1 ounce of gold, right? So half of the gold or half of the currency that's created always remains in the central account, and the other half gets transferred to you. That's $1,500 per hour, basically, for everybody, right? Gets transferred into your bank account. So now, like, people have that transitionary period where, okay, that person's making less than me because they work less hours than me. That sounds fair to me. I
Yeah.
make because I work more hours than them. That sounds fair to me, right? And it's still a sizable enough amount, right? 1,500 bucks an hour. The minimum requirement is 4 hours a week, right? So if you're doing 4 hours a week, that's 1,000 bucks a week that you're making.
Yeah.
It's a pretty fucking large income, right? So, I mean, most people only need like maybe 5,000 bucks a month if you have a family, maybe 3,000 bucks a month if you live alone, right? So that's a pretty fucking sizable amount. That's six, 12, $24,000 a month if you're working 4 hours a week. And that's our minimum requirement, right? But the minimum requirement now goes out the window
Yeah.
because you're making money per hour now, right? Instead of everybody just being equal all the time, being able to spend infinite value, right? You're making money in exchange for the amount of hours that you put in, but you're making 1,500 bucks an hour, and the other half remains in a central pot, right? For the central banking system. And the reason is this. So now let's say you want to spend money either to start a business, buy a house, buy a yacht, buy a car, whatever the case may be, that's beyond the amount of money you have in your bank account, which the longer time goes on shouldn't really be the case because you're making so much fucking money even at working 4 hours a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, there will be those times when people want to ask for what traditionally would be called a loan, only it's not really going to be a loan, it's going to be a grant, right? Well, there's grants and there's loans. There's two different types, right? If it's for entirely 100% personal use, it's a loan, right? You want to buy $100 million yacht? Okay. If there's enough money in the central pot, we'll give you the $100 million so that you can buy that yacht, but you got to pay that back to the central pot over time, right? Because it's for personal
Mm-hmm.
use. If it's I'm trying to start a business because I want to provide this service to the people in my community, that will be a grant. We'll give you the money for that. But there's an approval process for both grants and loans, right? You have to actually put out an application um, to get that grant or to get that loan for the purchase that you want to make that's above and beyond the amount you have in your personal bank account. And rather than that being decided by bankers, it's decided by your community, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
you grant or a loan, it goes out like that application goes out to the people in your community, and then they decide by a vote of overwhelming majority, meaning 61.8%, 2/3 or greater, right? They decide by a vote whether or not you should be granted or loaned that money for
Mm-hmm.
that. And if no, the answer is no. Sorry, buddy. If they decide yes, then you'll get it, right? Well, first it passes through, do we have enough money to cover this in our bank account, right? And there's going to be more people asking for loans all at the same time. So, we have to take that into consideration as well, right? And if it passes that preliminary stage, then it goes out to the community for a vote, for a final vote to pass it. So that was my secondary idea. Maybe we'll start with that so people feel it's more fair because they're so used to this value system that we have now.
Yeah.
And then time will eventually transition to that to where, like, guys, we have so much fucking abundance built up now. that it doesn't make sense to have to ask for money anymore. And so now we just switch over to my original idea, which was minimum service to community. Everybody has infinite power to spend.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, that transitions to our society is, so large throughout the world, and so much of the population exists within our society now that we literally don't have a use for money anymore because it's basically the same as not spending money at all. So why don't we get rid of that formality and transition over to what's now a resource-based economy instead of a monetary-based economy?
Yeah.
So that's the plan that I'm working on. That's the idea of our omni-centralized banking system.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about all that?
I like it. And I think it's that it's along the lines of what others have also been speaking about, and things I've seen in other forums and groups and communities and YouTube videos and so forth. Um, there's so much information out there for all of us, but at the same time, it can be really kind of, a little confusing. It's like, okay, well, exactly where are we headed? In what forms is, because if you look at it at the end of the day, basically whatever we're doing, we're for creating promissory notes or um I look at it as like we're still at the mercy in a sense, and that whatever, however, when you use that word, of the government providing, you know what I mean? Whether it's like, oh, well, Elon Musk is all in charge of all the satellite systems now, launching all these satellites, and that's part of our new system, or you know what I mean? It's
That's a
like,
that's not the government.
huh?
That's not the government though. That's Elon Musk's corporation.
No, right, that's his corporation, but it's also they're all part of the whole team, you know what I mean? On what side, because he's got Doge, and that's Department of Government Efficiency. So that's government, you
I
know?
wonder if he named the Dogecoin from the very beginning based on the idea of creating the Department of Government Efficiency, or if that just so happened to be in alignment with the idea later on.
Hmm.
I really wonder about that.
It's like someone was saying the other day, do you whether that's true or false or whatever, but he did say, you never exit the matrix. You just learn to embrace it.
Well, there's many different matrices.
Right.
That's where I have to disagree because whenever you exit one matrix, you're just entering another.
We're pretty much right. Exactly. Just kind of in a sense what we're doing right now.
Right.
It's like simulation after simulation after simulation after simulation.
Right. You can't exist except within some kind of matrix or simulation. Right.
Hmm.
Like existence itself is a matrix, right? So, whether we're talking, the United States is a matrix, the global government as it currently exists is a matrix, the Vatican is a matrix, the systems they developed, that's a matrix, right? But then also what we're
The
doing
car
to
we drive is the matrix.
right, what we're doing to create our own alternative society, that's just another matrix.
Right.
The planet in its natural state is a matrix. The solar system in its natural state is a matrix. The universe in its natural state is a matrix. All of existence exists in some matrix or another. So I guess, in that sense, I agree actually with you don't exit the matrix, you learn to embrace it because you're always in one matrix or another.
Right.
But
You got
also,
one foot in and one foot out.
it's some matrix. You can exit the matrix. It's just in so doing, you enter another matrix. To be more detailed about it.
Yeah.
So it would be more true than exiting a matrix. Like embracing, yes, because there's the totality of all matrices.
So it's yeah, it just I just go from one thing to another.
Right. Embrace the matrices. You know, the word matrix is rather interesting to me because it's actually the combination of two different words. I don't know how many people know this. Like, it's not just a mathematical construct with certain rules and parameters, right? Like, yes, in math, we use the word matrix for that purpose, but in language and linguistics, the etymological meaning, not the definition perhaps, but the etymological meaning of the word matrix, right? It,
Hmm.
it's, it stems from two words, matron, which means mother, and creatrix, which means female creator, right?
Hmm.
So the word matrix, being matron and matrix, creatrix, literally means the mother of all creation. That's the literal etymological meaning of the word matrix, the mother of all creation.
Hmm. Thought I
That's
was
the
hearing like I thought I was hearing a couple loud booms outside, sound like fireworks. Um, yeah. So how long do you want to go today? What are we at?
whatever.
What are we at right now?
Somewhere around a half hour thing by the time we finally started.
I'm sorry?
Somewhere about a half hour, I think, by the time we got started.
Oh, we're a half hour in, that's it?
I think so. Because we got
You
started a bit
might want to
later.
check. You might want to check. I think it's been about 45.
Well, it was I created the Zoom at about 7:15 my time. It's
Yeah.
now 8 o'clock my time, but we had some issues in the beginning for about 15 minutes. So I think we're only about a half hour into the episode.
Yeah, that was doing my part of my technical
That's okay though. I think we're good to go for another half hour if you want.
okay.
We don't have to. It can be as long or as short as we want.
Ah, I guess today I'd we could maybe throw a few um people's pages out, or some other people that we have been following, or whether it be Tonson Fairmont or Brandon Joe or Dr. Courtney Sue Hunt on Instagram, um, and whoever else, Cam.
When we talk about the latitude, you want to talk about Tonsan a little bit?
About Tonson?
Yeah.
Sure. Why don't you open up on that one, since you introduced me to him back in 2020?
Something like that.
Has it been that long?
I think so. It's
Yeah,
been more.
yeah, it has been. It has been 2020.
All right. So Tonsan Fairmont is the benefactor of a company, a wealth management and asset protection company called Brilliance in Commerce. It's it actually goes legally by a different name. That's just a DBA. I don't La Veritas. I think that's,
I've
I
seen
think,
that. But that's what confuses me too, because he's got a page called La Veritas, like or however he spells it. It's spelled way different. Now there's
it's
a
French. Yeah.
project. There's Project La Veritas, Veritas, I believe it
Yeah.
is. And then his is spelled differently.
So they actually started as La Veritas,
Who
and
did who did
he,
Thompson?
yeah, and
Oh,
that was like
because
30, 50 years ago when he first got started. They started as La Veritas because that's the name of their trust. But the trust that runs the company is La Veritas. But he quickly realized that most people don't speak French in America, and so it never really caught on, right? Because people didn't know how to pronounce it, people didn't know how to spell it.
hmm
So, eventually he was like, I need to come up with something a bit more um, American, if you will, right? So that's when he came up with Brilliance in Commerce as a DBA. So it's still La Veritas, that's the name of their trust, but now La Veritas operates as a DBA called Brilliance in Commerce. So I'm sure they still have their original website for La Veritas because it still serves all the background functions for
hmm
Brilliance, right? If you have any legal issues or whatever, that's La Veritas. But all the products, the front end products and services are sold through Brilliance, right?
Right.
So just for the sake of our viewers, since we're talking about it in this video, I will post a link in the description below the video for Brilliance in Commerce and Brandon Joe Williams, onestupidfuck.com, because we talked about that. Um, but so Brilliance in Commerce is, again, an asset protection and wealth management company. And they take on a very different approach from your average asset protection and wealth management company. First and foremost, their goal is to serve people that are not already wealthy who are working on becoming wealthy. So their prices are an awful lot lower than other asset management companies. Whereas a typical asset management company, their price is going to start at 10,000 and probably top out around 50,000 to create a trust. Brilliance in Commerce offers trusts for $2,500, right? And they even offer payment plans for those who can't make that in one lump sum, right? Um, the second thing that I would mention is that their version of trusts is something that is specifically known as a natural law trust, right? Now,
hmm
that's not terminology. In banking terminology, they still go by banking terms, which is private irrevocable trust, right? But the language of their trust, the way their documents is written, is entirely under the language of natural law, not common law, not statutory law, right? And that puts it square in the original jurisdiction of natural law, which is the jurisdiction of law that all other jurisdictions get their power from, right?
hmm hmm
Natural law is God's jurisdiction, right? So, because natural law exists, and it's immutable, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There's a consequence to everything, right? That's natural law, right? Because it has immutable power, mankind has decided that we can therefore create jurisdictions of law that also technically have immutable power, right? Because we call it law. It's kind of childish, if you ask me, but that's what humans have decided, and that's only enforceable because natural law has immutable power, right? So we're drawing upon natural law. So nobody can ever deny the jurisdiction of natural law because if they did, then in so doing, they would deny their own jurisdiction of law, right?
hmm
And these particular trusts so powerful is because it's not common law, right? If they were common law trusts, then they would be subject to common law courts, right? And common law is a very tricky thing, which it's all decided by case law, and basically whoever presents the best case, which is whoever presents the best version of previous cases to support their case, basically wins the battle. But natural law is different, right? Because
Yeah.
natural law is like, for example, in the preamble to the Constitution, right? It states our God-given rights. In the Declaration of Independence, it states our God-given rights.
Hmm.
Natural law, right? The Declaration of Independence is drawn on the jurisdiction of natural law, right? By saying God gave us these rights, right? So it's kind of the same with uh, Brilliance and Commerce's trusts, where they may or may not, I don't know, no, I've read it. They don't explicitly name God as the source of power, uh, but the language is entirely that of natural law, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
That gives it the highest authority in the land, right? And so long as you follow proper trust law, because that, which is private equity law, as long as you operate your trust properly as a private irrevocable trust, uh, you're basically immune, to anything that the government can throw at you because they can't deny natural law and they can't deny private irrevocable trusts because if they did, then they would basically be denying their own way of operating.
Exactly.
And so that's their primary service that they offer is those trusts, but there's a lot of other services they offer too. One is debt cancellation. So if you're in over your head with debts that you can't pay off, they can help you actually get those debts canceled legally without having to pay a dime, right? That's another service they offer. And then there's
Hmm.
investment services, which they offer a lot of different types of packages, but uh, this is where, like, in general, you have to build a little bit of wealth before you can start investing with them. Their other services are to help you build wealth. And
Hmm.
then to get to a minimum level of wealth, then you can start help building wealth through them with their investment services. Their smallest investment service costs $25,000 to get into, though,
Oh yeah.
and it goes to $1 billion from there, right? Depending on the level of investing that you're capable of and want to be doing. But these investment services are unlike any other, right? Where, a lot of people probably won't believe me when I say this, uh, but that's okay, right? It doesn't change the fact of the matter. Um, it's up to you if you want to believe or disbelieve this. But even their smallest package that starts at $25,000 returns an average keyword of about 60% per month, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, people in the world of investing think that 10% per year is like the maximum that you're going to get, but that's not true, right? That's just not true. You can get way more than that, especially with AI nowadays. It's totally possible.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know how these investment packages, I don't know the finer nuances of how all these investment packages work, but I know Todd said it, and he checks, double checks, rechecks, triple checks, quadruple checks, everything before he puts it out there as a service, right? Uh, So, that $25,000 package, the smallest one you can get into, returns $60,000 a month. I mean, sorry, 60% per month on average. And then they're like million plus dollar packages that you can get into. They literally
Yeah.
return 100% per month or more as an average. So sometimes it's less than 100, sometimes it's more, but on average, 100% or more per month. Unheard of, but it's called the I don't know if I should actually say this. No, I probably shouldn't. Might get our channel shut down. Like what it's called. That's about as much information as I'm allowed to say publicly because they are private. That's keyword private um, investment platforms,
Right.
uh, which means by law you're not allowed to publicly advertise them. So I can't talk about them in this video. But eventually we'll have like a mailing list that you can subscribe to, and then I can send you links from there because that would be a private invitation as
Yep.
opposed to public advertising. So I'm not allowed to talk about it any further in this video. That's about what I have said. may even be dangerous. I don't know. Um, so I've said about as much as I can say about those investment packages. And eventually we'll have a website and mailing list that you can join for more information. In the meantime, you can go to brillianceandcommerce.com, links below, and look into it for yourself.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey the last 4 years, hasn't it?
Indeed. Is that the computer making that noise?
What noise?
That music? Do you hear it?
Nope.
Oh, oh yeah, it is my computer.
Oh, is it?
The heart brain coherence is playing. I don't know why I started playing, but I think I'll just let it keep playing.
Hmm.
Surprised you can't hear it. My microphone must be really good at canceling noise.
So, did you want to talk today a little bit more about the market?
Or what you want to say about it?
Well, I thought I'd mention to some people out there that if they were interested in cryptocurrency, that they could start a wallet, a Coinbase wallet, open that up, 10, $20, and kind of play with that 10, $20, move it around to different places, send it to other people, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I would suggest Coinbase too, because there's a lot of wallets out there. There's a lot of exchanges out there. And how do you know whether or not you can trust those exchanges? Well,
Well,
Coinbase has already had some issues, and they've been through litigation, and they corrected those issues, and in so doing, they have proved that they are trustworthy.
yeah. I mean,
So I would
they
highly support Coinbase.
they are a centralized exchange, which most of the exchanges are anyways. You're buying your tokens, your coins, whether you're buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, whatever, meme coins, you're buying them off so many different exchanges, and now um none of them are decentralized. So,
Yeah,
but then you're getting yourself your ledger or your treasure. Um, when I say ledger, like Ledger Nano X or S. Now they have different types of Pale wallets. They have uh, Ledger Flex, Ledger Stacks, and those are more like the Ledger Flex and the Ledger Stacks are more like of a small phone, whether versus the Ledger Nano X is a kind of like a uh, what would you call those things you plug into the side of the computer to
USB
load?
drive.
Yeah, it kind of something similar like that. That's the best that I could describe to someone if they haven't seen it before. So it's a device that you have, you know, um, a seed phrase, and then you have a PIN number to open the device, and then it can connect to your your iPhone or whatever kind of phone you have via Bluetooth, and it's your own bank, basically what it is. So
More than anything you do with cryptocurrency is basically you acting as your own bank.
yeah,
I would only suggest cold storage wallets like the Ledger Nano X or any money that you're just holding on to.
hmm
Right? If you want to be trading, I would suggest Coinbase. But any money that you don't want to be trading but just holding, I would suggest Ledger.
Yeah.
Or any kind of cold storage device. But yeah, Ledger's a good one.
Yeah. And it's a good idea to get those, to get them off the centralized exchanges and get them onto your ledger. But you got a lot of people that are coming into the space now, and maybe you got 70 or 80-year-old, um, person, and they may be a little bit more confused using that, the ledger, and because of the learning curve on it, because there's a lot with it. You know what I mean? There's a lot to have to learn how to, if you want to swap out your Ethereum in there and inside the ledger, you got to make sure you got enough Ethereum into the account, and because one from one to the other doesn't cover the fees, and so so there is a learning curve to it, as with any new technology. But I mean, with the iPhones and MacBooks and stuff, that's been kind of gradual for us, you know. But if you want to look at it like it's just basically conditioning, and you can see how tech was started getting more whatever with the introduction of the iPhones and stuff when they started coming out, you know what I mean? So as we discussed before, it's your your phone is basically your, and these days and era and times, it's our lifeline, right? I mean, we conduct our business on there, almost all of our business, and that could be anything from banking to grocery shopping to whatever, paying your bills. um
Is USDC on Ledger now?
I believe it's USDC is on the ledger now. Yeah, it's on Coinbase.
I remember back when I was using it, it wasn't on there yet, and that was like frustrating.
Browser.
Like, if another currency really goes up in value and you want to be able to sell it, you got to transfer it to something like USDC, but it wasn't there yet. So it's like I can't even transfer to USDC. I have to transfer, to this and then to that, and then get it to my Coinbase,
Right.
and get it to a safe currency.
Right. Yeah, there is multiple steps involved. And
That's why I stopped using it because I'm just like,
yeah,
I'll just Coinbase at that point.
yeah, we are using so much more simpler technology than what there was, maybe, or maybe it feels a little bit more simple to us now because we got the introduction of it with all the hardware supply stuff, and then all of a sudden, boom, we went from whatever, still using the ledger, but then Coinbase and other type of exchanges like Uphold or Binance or Kraken.
Finance is a good one. Unfortunately,
What's that?
finance is another good one that I really want to get into, but unfortunately, it's still not available where I live in the U.S. It's available in many states throughout the U.S., even like the Binance.us version, but in Connecticut, it's still not available.
Really?
Yeah,
Now, why are they doing that?
I don't know. There's something about them, about the way that they operate, that not every state in the U.S. agrees with. Like the original version, no one in the United States agreed with, so they made some changes and created Binance.us. And they were like,
Yeah.
okay, how about this? And like half the states were like, okay, we'll go with that. And the other half were like, nope, still fuck you.
Yeah.
Whatever. Maybe
Yeah.
some
What's that?
maybe someday.
Yeah. Well, it's just getting so much easier to move money. We already talked about that, so you got Apple Pay and basically everything being linked right up to
I wonder,
all your accounts now.
I wonder if you can get a credit card for your Coinbase account.
You sure can.
You can.
Yep.
All right, cool. So yeah, you can spend you can spend your crypto money as USD using your fucking credit cards from your
Yeah.
cryptocurrency accounts
I
now.
got one from Coinbase and I never used it. And I ended up throwing it out because I think it expired.
Oh, yeah, I'm not ready for that yet either. I'm still a bit more interested in growing my money on crypto than I am in spending it.
Yeah. But I guess it's a good move for us to make to see to what like how, um
It's looking good though. It's about as high as it's going to get right now before it starts dropping again. Yeah, I can only get a few cents higher.
what are we at?
Yeah, let me actually do a screen share and show everybody.
Where's Bitcoin?
Hold on, I'll show you.
98?
Where is? Oh shit, can I not do a screen share on this version? Why would I not be able to have post tools? You gotta be kidding me.
Hmm.
Oh, here we are, share screen. Okay, nothing happened. Are you seeing my screen right now?
Nope, just your hand
Oh,
interface.
all participants. Oh, okay. So, all right. So we can share screen now.
We can't?
Oh, there it is. Share screen. Okay.
We
Share.
can.
All right. So now you should be able to see my screen.
It's waiting. There it goes. Yep.
All right. So you see the chart here?
Yeah, what are you using there? Is that that's not trading view, is it?
This is Coinbase Advanced version.
Oh, okay.
So this is the past month of Coinbase. I can scroll back here. Unfortunately, in the advanced version, it only goes back to what is this like? Oh, no, it's well, it'll go back a little bit further if I put it on the day chart. It goes only back to like June of 23 because I think that's when the advanced version rolled out.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, so this is the last month on US XRP versus USD, right? So you're watching XRP increase in value. But here now you finally like this is like 1 month in right here is the peak, right? So this is December 3rd, right, is its peak. Now remember the last peak? Here, let me actually switch back here. XRP on the normal version, all time. All right, so this peak right here, the first peak, right, starts, what is this, December 7th? No, it's a little bit before that. Like right at the tail end of November, like we'll just call it November 30th. And then the peak, January 3rd. That's the peak, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
November 30th to January 3rd, right? 1 month of time, just over a month. And then it sharply came back down, right? So now you see this guy, and you can see it's already starting to sharply come back down, right? Even on this chart, right? And so that's going to follow the same timeline, right? When you have a spike go up, it's got to come down, and it's going to
Yep.
come down just as fast as it went up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to it now, right? So this is the same spike happening again. And right here, what's interesting is January or December 3rd from November. What is this? Where are we? November 9th, 2024. That's when it began, right?
Yep.
To December 3rd, right? So the last one was on November 30th to January 3rd. This one's November 9th to December 3rd. Interesting how they're both on the 3rd that they peak out and then start
Mm-hmm.
coming. So, anyways, you see this coming down sharply, right? And it's like resettling, coming down, and now it's resettling back up to its resistance point right here, right? So it's about the highest it's going to get is right there, 251.49, right? It's about as high as it's going to get before it makes the next move sharply down to this point right here, right? So, because that's its next resistance downward. So it's going to come down to 195. Then it's going to spend about a week resettling there, right? And come back up to here, right? So if you want to, you could buy in when it comes down to 195 and sell again when it gets back up to 224, right? And then it's going to come on down to here, $1.50, right? And then it's going to spend a week resettling to this resistance point, $1.84, and then it's going to come on down to this point at its lowest. Now I don't know if it'll actually come that low. Let's see if it goes back far enough back here. No, it doesn't. So I'm gonna have to switch back here now. XRP all time. All right. So this here is its lowest previous high, right? So this right here is about as low as it can possibly go, right? Just a
Mm-hmm.
dollar 41 ish, right? And it might be this peak or this peak, right? Because it's going to be the average of these three peaks right here, right? So, roughly $1.30 maybe at the absolute lowest. This is the next point it's going to come down to, right? When it completely and fully resettles, it won't go below this point, right? When this comes down, and it's going to take a while, right? It might come down to maybe $1.90 pretty quick, and then $1.50 pretty quickly thereafter. Over the next month, it's going to come down to $1.50, and then it's going to spend the next several months to a year coming down to this point, $1.40, $1.30, right? Until the next event triggers another spike. And nowadays, who knows how often those events are going to happen, right?
Yeah.
They previously they've been happening once every 2 years. They could be happening once every 2 months in the future, for all we know.
Yep.
So basically, my advice is once it gets back down to about $1.50, just buy back in right there. Like, yeah, maybe it'll go a bit lower to $1.40, maybe $1.30, but you never know. There might be another spike that causes it to go up before it resettles down to there. So,
Right.
like, that's my plan. Is when it gets down to $1.50, I'm going to buy back in, and then I'm just going to wait for the next spike because every time it spikes, it's going to come back down to its previous high as its new low, right? And its previous high now is 284. So next time it spikes, it's not going to become less than 284, right?
Yeah.
And if it spikes up to $5 next time and then comes down to 284, well, next time it spikes, let's say it goes up to $10, well, now it's not coming down lower than $5, right? And so on
Yeah.
and so on. The trick is not necessarily knowing when it's at its bottom, because that's easy to know. It's easy to know when it's reached its bottom because that's going to be its previous resistance point, right? In this
Yeah.
case, absolute low of $1.40, $1.30, or potentially, yeah, I don't think it'll go this low again. So, like when it hits this level right here, $1.50 ish, that's going to be the high of its low, and then it's going to, you know, maybe settle down to about this point, $1.30 or so,
Yeah.
for its next peak.
Yeah. There's
Uh,
so much. Even with charts, it's just
so
because
it's
of
easy
everything's
to
so
know when
rapidly
to buy
changing. It's
in. It's easy to know when to buy in because you're looking at the previous resistance point, which in this case is again $1.50 to $1.30. That's its previous resistance point. After that, it can't go any lower than that. Not without some dramatic event happening to send it lower, right?
right. Right.
Which likelihood of that is, practically null and void at least for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
But the tricky part is knowing when it's at its peak, right? Because every peak is going to be a little bit different. This one just happened to be exactly reminiscent of the first peak, like however many years ago that was, right? In
Right.
2018, right? So what's that, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? This just happened to be exactly reminiscent of that peak, and that peak lasted from 1 month up and 1 month down. So that's how I knew, okay, this peak is going to top out after about a month. So when I saw this coming down dramatically right here, I was like, oh yeah, we're at the end of the peak, right? And that's generally your first clue is you never know, like you're never going to be able to cash out right here because you never know when you're at that spot. But when you see a spike like this, followed by a spike like this, you know you're at the end of your peak.
Yep.
Now it's time to sell, right? This is the safest part to sell right here. And it just so happens to be a little bit higher than that right now. So this is probably your best chance of selling is right now, tonight, which unfortunately this video is probably not going out till tomorrow. So people are going to miss this, but by tomorrow morning, it's going to be back down to about here again. But that's okay. That's still a good point to sell at. Anywhere above $1.50 is a good point to sell at right now. Because this baby is coming back down and it's going to settle again over the next month to $1.50 to $1.30. And who knows when the next spike is going to be.
Right.
But one thing is for sure, it's going to settle to $1.50 to $1.30 before the next spike.
Well, that'll be interesting.
Excuse me,
So,
for these spikes from now on.
yeah. Well, I think we got about everything covered for today, right?
Feels
Um,
good.
just touching that top tip of the iceberg.
Well, we got a lot of episodes left.
Yep.
Technically, so
Well, Cameron, I don't think we even introduced ourselves, did we?
maybe we'll do that next episode.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, our next episode is going to be Saturday. So what time should we get together on Saturday?
You're an hour ahead of me?
An hour ahead of you.
10 a.m. You want to do it in the morning?
It's a good time. 10 a.m. your time or my time?
How about let's do 9? Because then
Whose time? Your
oh,
time or my
9 my time, 10 yours.
9 your time, 10 mine.
Yep.
Sounds good to me. All
And
right,
then that way get the rest of the day to gain some more knowledge.
or think of a half an hour story to introduce yourself with.
Yeah. Oh, before we
Yeah, you want to
we,
do a half hour each introduction next episode?
yeah.
Who you are, who I am.
Yep.
We got to do that at some point, whether it's episode 3, 4, 5, I don't care.
Yeah. Are you Agent Freeman?
I am Cameron Freeman. I am Seth Harris. I am whichever name you want to call me. I am
Yeah.
the money dragon, bro. That's what I am.
Yeah. You can spell your name. You can spell your name any way you want to.
Yeah, I do know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always could.
The spelling of Cameron is so unique.
Yeah. I mean backwards or forward. You want to sign a document, you can sign it. Harris Seth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
I intentionally choose the colon first name dash middle name colon last name.
Yeah.
That's my personal favorite.
We'll have to keep an eye on Brandon Joe and he did have a rather interesting show today, meeting, and I'd like to go back and review that again,
Hmm.
so
I'll
I
see
can
it eventually.
pull some more information out of there for our audience. And
I'm on video 20 of his contract killer course.
yeah, yeah, he's also got the course on there how to get a car from the DMV tax free and free, period, the car. Um, but you got to go, you got to go through a process. You got to know how to do it all, right? And
Yeah.
so, but I think as things move forward with that and more people start to do it, and then each dealership are like, oh yeah, we had a guy come in here, whatever, so I'm sure it's probably getting to be known and talked about too, even among the dealerships. So someone probably passes some information along. Hey, did you hear about that? There's people that are using the dealerships, us, to get free cars, but we're still making the profits on it and everything else and the commission.
Yeah, was that the proper use of the 1099As?
What's that?
Is that through the proper use of the 1099As?
I don't think so. I think that's just process of using promissory notes.
Uh,
I believe so, Cameron. Go back and review the video, but so
but yeah, I guess as long as you know how to send a promissory note to the U.S. Treasury for collection, you can get your money on it, whether it's a Federal Reserve note or anybody else's handwritten promissory note.
yeah, he really talks about the Federal Reserve note too and the difference and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's even he's even a gold investor.
But apparently there is a way to get the U.S. Treasury to give you legit money in exchange for any kind of promissory note, as long as it's legally created.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, supposedly there's. I mean, at the end of the day, again, we're looking at it again as like, okay, well, we're pretty much like dependent on the government for, if you want to call the Treasury a government, is the Treasury still the corporation? Is it, what is it? What is it? You know what I mean? Or is this just our,
Department of the corporate government, yeah.
you know? So no matter how you look at it, what anything or everything that it seems like we're doing, and any processes are cryptocurrency, it's like, well, the government's all involved in it. The government's bought up, like in certain states, they've bought up, their treasury. The state's treasury has bought up like, $150 million Bitcoin each state. So where I'm at, they did in Wisconsin. So I guess the plan is to pay off the debt with Bitcoin.
Well, that's how the value is determined on the exchange markets.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, and then you got Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor, he's just, micro strategies and how he does all his stuff is just crazy, dude. Like literally,
Not familiar with him yet.
oh yeah, you'll have to look him up. You have to look up just to watch a couple videos, but he's billions and billions in, and he moves millions and millions in Bitcoin, all the time. And he's got these strategies. And I'm sure some of these people somehow get some sort of a tip, or somehow something works. So whether it's their telepathy that people do use, to get these these pullbacks. Like the other day, was it yesterday? It actually fell. It only says, excuse me, on Coin market cap, it said Bitcoin pulled back from like 103,000 down to 94. And nobody had time. There was like nobody, there was like real, by the time anybody even seen it was already back up, you know what I mean?
Apparently,
But a lot
10
of
million.
whales, a lot of whales accumulated between that time period. So it spiked all the way down to 90,
Yeah,
not not
somebody,
94. 90 was confirmed, but it's not what we seen because it was like a micro whatever. It was a zip zip and right back that quick.
yeah, like that's usually when you see something like that, that's a whale. That's called a whale move, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's moving a shit ton of fucking money through that currency is what's happening.
Yep. And nobody else really had time to because everybody was caught off guard from it, you know?
All right,
So
so that's what whales do. Like if you own $100 fucking million of Bitcoin and you sell all $100 million, well, you just dropped its price, right?
yeah.
Because you sold so fucking much, you just dropped its price, right?
Right. Right.
The very next second, you just buy it all back at that lower price. Pop, you just made a profit.
Right.
That's what whales do. That's how they make money. You move so much money, you're guaranteed to make a profit off of just moving that money.
Right. Yeah.
That much money.
What a strategy, eh?
And going back to Taunton Fairmont and Brilliance in Commerce, like that's how they're I got to be careful what I say here. So let's just say that's how their most expensive investment platforms work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is they're moving so much money. That's why it costs so much money to get into them because they're moving so much money, it automatically generates profit.
Right.
That's how they can guarantee those 100+% returns
Right.
per month because they make trades like that fucking every day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
99.9% of those trades are done by machines, not humans, machines.
Right.
It's like that Bitcoin thing, like bop bop, like within a second.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the machine is doing that, not a human.
Right.
That's how they make all their money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't wait to get into those trades with Todd said. I can't wait to have my first 25,000 to get into that first tier, work my way up to a million, 10 million to get into that tier, work my way up to 100 million to get into that tier. Once I get to a billion, that's when I'm just like, all right, we're going to stay there and just keep taking profits and use all that money to fund everybody's dreams and, that we're trying to get done.
Right. I like that.
That's my plan.
You know, that's the
I don't know if I'll have to actually get that far though. I might only have to get 100 billion before I finally have enough to start our. Once we have our omni-centralized banking system done, we don't need investments anymore. We don't need nothing anymore.
yeah. Money is endless. Oh,
Right?
however we look at it, it's just so silly, you know?
It's an idea. It's a concept. It's not even
Yeah, I know. And it's all ones and zeros, you know?
And this is actually where I disagree with a lot of sovereignty people or freedom seekers is the idea that we should go back to the gold standard or the precious metal standard for money. Like, actually, no. Like, that's the last thing we should do. Like, you got to understand that having moved away from the precious metal standard is a blessing in disguise. Like, yes, because of the way we work those markets where it's a debt-based system with interest to boot, it's destined to go bankrupt. But look at it from this perspective, right? If we go back to a precious metal standard, we're just going to repeat the whole cycle all over again, where we're going to transcend precious metal standard into this idea where we're getting closer to unlimited abundance again. But we're going to, once again, we'll fuck it up as another debt-based system with interest, which is going to collapse on itself again because that's what it's going to do. It's got to rebalance, right? But if we can figure out how to transcend from precious metals to debt-based currency to credit-based currency, right? If we can figure out how to take that next step forward instead of stepping backwards again, we can finally transcend the whole concept of debt altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And we can actually enter into a state of unlimited abundance for all of humanity, right? And the one thing that causes most people to step backwards instead of forwards is the idea of limitation of resources, right? The problem with that is our resources would only be are only as limited as our monetary based system
Mm-hmm.
is, right? So the only reason our resources are limited right now is because we can't afford to recycle our resources and make them basically unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that makes our resources unlimited, right? Is that we can't afford to recycle them. But if we didn't have to worry about affording it and we could perpetually recycle our resources, we would basically have infinite resources.
Right.
The problem is the affordability, right? And our current monetary system doesn't make it affordable. But if we take one more step forwards instead of taking a step backwards, we will be able to transcend that and we will be able to afford to perpetuate our resources.
Mm-hmm.
And we will have unlimited abundance on this planet.
Yep. Yes, sir. um,
The problem is getting people to take that step. And you can't just convince them, right? You have to show them.
yeah.
And the only way to show them is you have to create a system that transitions them one small step at a time to that future.
Yeah.
So that's my plan. That's my purpose in life is to try and create that central banking system, that omni-central banking system that enables humanity to make that evolutionary transition.
I mean the Omni.
Yep. From omni from centralization to decentralization to omni-centralization to resource based.
Yeah.
No money needed anymore, right? Just track the resources and make sure that the resources go to where they're needed
Mm-hmm.
as make sure they're recycled as they need to be recycled. We can do
Yeah.
that. We have the technology for it. We just need to have the consciousness for it.
Mm-hmm. The I went over to the local police department here the other day. Did I tell you this?
I don't think so.
To get a parking permit. And
How sovereign of you.
yeah. Yeah. So that's really tough for me. That's a really tough thing to do, you know what I mean? It's like still
Well,
whatever.
this way though, even if we had diplomatic immunity, we'd still have to do that.
Yeah. I went there on like a Friday. I don't remember if it's Friday or whatever, but they had a sign in the window that says closed or whatever. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, we won't be able to issue any parking permits till Monday. So I went over there the other day. What is today? I went over there on Wednesday and got it. And the lady, after I paid for it, the $30, she wrote me out a handwritten receipt at the police department. I'm like, what the?
Handwritten.
Yeah. So check this out. She
That's like
told me, she told me their systems are closed down because they're being revamped.
that's a legit excuse.
No, that's what
But
she said. She said they're,
most revampings are changing.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm like wondering what's going on. I wonder if something's going on within education, within the police department, or the court systems, or like what's going on, you know? Um, I just been seeing too many changes within everything, and what I guess those changes are the changes that are happening within ourselves that we're creating, that we're seeing in our reality. You know what I mean?
I was like, yeah, there's a lot of changes in consciousness happening now. So
Yeah. So
make it up.
a lot of good things have been going on. I've been seeing a lot of good things, like there was a homeless kind of encampment going on right off the freeway to on a park and ride. And there were quite a few people over there. There were quite a few people that were there, and then people that were parked there with their RVs or their little campers or tents or just staying in their car. It was getting kind of pretty bad. I went over there and I talked with a lady, and just brought a few things over there, and yeah, but that reality changed, and because I had really like deeply felt it and thought about it, whatever about that there's not going to be any more homelessness in the world or hunger, and all of a sudden I heard that they were pulling them up and they're finding all those people shelter or homes to go to, and
Yeah, I mean,
but
there's homes for them to fill.
yeah, so but yeah, it was getting pretty bad there because there was just a mix of like different people there. There were like people that were just truly, well, they're all, but there are just people that were straight, like homeless, but no drugs, no alcohol. And then there was a mix of other ones that were, you know, drugs and alcohol. So, um, yeah. So I do see things are changing as we talked about. I see the banks that are coming out of the ground, the credit unions attached to them are wealth management offices and lawyers' offices, all in the same building, brand new, one stop shop. You know, so
Oh, one of these days I'll make brilliance in commerce a one-stop shop.
yep. So
Actually, a lot of that. That's huh.
what's that?
Bankers, lawyers, and asset protection all in one business. Why not?
Yep. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're about an hour and a half in now. I
All
think it's a
right.
good close